I'm just coming back. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Why is it not sharing? Yeah. Okay. So that was one part about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansing our own heart. That is, he makes our heart fit to receive him. Krishna does it. That is, Krishna or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Radha and Krishna together cleanse our heart, cleanse our desires, cleanse our feelings of willingness, etc., to make it good enough that, yes, now I want only the absolute truth. I don't want to be distracted by the multiple unnecessary distractions of this world. So Krishna himself is a dasa anudas and he's exhibiting it to us. And we discussed how Mahaprabhu serves everybody. He served prasadam to everybody. He ensured that he gave chandan to everybody, etc. And then we came to the pastime of the Rath Yatra, where Jagannath came from the temple, he came all the way outside. And we heard first yesterday how there was King Prataparudra. You see at the picture at the bottom right. He was looking from the top of one of his palaces, and you see the Puri temple in the background, the Jagannath temple in the background. He was seeing the dancing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing in front of the cart. And he had a wonder. He saw a wonder. And the wonder was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had established 7 chanting parties. That is, there were 7 groups of devotees. And in each group, he saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing. How was it possible? It was possible because Sarvam Bhattacharya said that prior to him seeing this, King Prataparudra had cleansed the ground or the roads in front of Lord Jagannath. And for this menial service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy. When we act in this menial mood of service, that is dasanudas, not in the mood of wanting to be a boss, not that I overlord others and then I gain something. No, instead, let me be a servant of the devotees. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes very happy. And because of that, he was able to actually see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's expansions. And what does it mean? This is an ordinary person cannot expand like this. It is only the Supreme Lord. And what is the inner meaning of this? If you see in the Rasa Leela pastime, Sri Krishna expanded himself and danced with each of the gopis. And each gopi thought Krishna is dancing only with her and the others are just dancing. And that was the supreme mystic potency of Krishna. In fact, Srila Prabhupada used to say, in this world today, there are so many people who claim, I am God. If you are God, do at least a fraction of what Krishna said. As a child, he took Govardhan Hill on the little finger, the pinky finger of his left hand. He just lifted it. Can you lift even a book on the pinky of your left finger and keep it for 7 days? I mean, forget a mountain, even a book or even a small object. We're not able to do that. And so this vision of what Prataparudra saw is the same as the Rasalila vision. And that's why Prataparudra was so blessed. But his blessings were not to be stopped at that. So happened that as the Rath Yatra progressed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced ecstatically. And as he was dancing, he was feeling the loving feelings which Srimati Radharani had for Krishna. He actually came to experience that. And during this Rath Yatra pastime, he was experiencing it. Why? Because this Rath Yatra is enacting the pulling of Krishna's chariot from Kurukshetra to Vrindavan. That is from the main temple in Puri to Gundicha temple, which is non-different from Vrindavan. And as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing, he used to jump up very high. And his body had become very thin. And it so happened that foam used to come out from his mouth. Usually, when a person has epilepsy or fits, foam comes out from his mouth. But the nature of this ecstasy was such that foam was coming out from his mouth. He was sweating, and from his eyes, tears were coming out as if they were like buckets of water coming out. Or sometimes when with a syringe, when you press the syringe, the water or the fluid or the liquid comes out forcefully. Like that, the tears used to come out. This is not possible for an ordinary human being. This is possible only in extreme states of ecstasy like what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had. And whosoever on whom the sweat, the tears, and the foam fell, they all became ecstatic. They all became very happy. So normally, if you take foam or something from the mouth of a person, it is so dirty. It is such a dirty thing. But in the Supreme Lord, there is nothing material in his body, his tears, his foam, everything is spiritual. So we should have that clear conception. And one person would just go and collect the foam and take and drink it or eat it, and his body will be completely numb. He will be so ecstatic. That was the level of ecstasy which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought for the residents of Puri. And as he was watching this, Pratap Rudra was watching it, it so happened that the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very well knew that Mahaprabhu had his ecstatic symptoms, and so they used to protect him. You see, they are in a circle, so they used to come round in a circle and not allow others to come to him. So it so happened that Srivas Pandit, was in front of this King Pratap Rudra. He came down from the palace. He came down here to the streets, and as he was watching along with his general, Srivas Pandit came in front of him, and he was obstructing the vision of the king. Normally, nobody would do it. So the king's general, tried to push Srivas Pandit away. And Srivas Pandit is none other than Narada Muni. So Narada Muni had come in Chaitanya Leela as Srivas Pandit, and as soon as this Harichandana, the general of the king, pushed Srivas Pandit aside so that the king could see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srivas Pandit slapped Harichandana. Of course, the general had a sword with him. He could have cut him right then. But immediately, Pratap Rudra stepped in and touched Harichandana and said, "Don't do anything. Just let it be as it is." Why? Because he knew through the mercy of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, his guru, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord, Srivas Thakur is his eternal associate, Narad Muni. And we are so fortunate to be part of this. So don't do anything. This is a great benediction on you that you have been touched by Narada Muni. So just leave it as it is. And this was the reason for him to get one more mercy. And this was recognized. And what had happened to Pratap Rudra prior to this? Prior to the Rath Yatra, he had requested that he have a personal audience with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had refused it, saying, "How can I meet a king?" And now Pratap Rudra, by dint of his services, the mood of service, he was able to see these wonderful pastimes up close. But that itself was not even sufficient in one sense, or that is not the end of the world. As the Rath Yatra progressed, it stopped at a particular place. And that was the time to offer varieties of food items to Jagannath. And after having danced ecstatically, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates went to this garden nearby, it's on the main road itself, and they took rest. And at that time, the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the king, "You have rendered nice service, but as long as you are going to be present in the dress of a king, Mahaprabhu wouldn't accept you. Why don't you dress up like a Vaishnava in a simple dress and go and serve him?" So that's what Pratap Rudra did. He went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu was lying down in the garden. He was exhausted. His eyes were closed. And King Pratap Rudra went and touched the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and began to press it. And then Mahaprabhu, in his Yoga Maya Leela, that is being over enamored by his own internal energy, he's in full control of himself. But when he does his pastimes, he allows himself to be overawed. So he was closing his eyes, and then Pratap Rudra, as he was pressing the feet of the Supreme Lord, he said, "Please recite verses of Krishna Leela." And Pratap Rudra did that. As he was reciting, he recited one verse. This is a verse from the 10th canto, or the Dashama Skanda of Srimad Bhagavatam. It goes this way.
कथामृतम् ताप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीडितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना.
So in this verse, the gopis are actually glorifying that the words of Krishna and the activities of Krishna are the life and soul for those who are suffering in this material world. And they said that these, the Shravana Mangalam, they are the most auspicious. These narrations are transmitted by learned sages, and they are the ones, by hearing the katha of Krishna, our sinful reactions are gone, and it brings about the circumstances by which we can come to our true nature. They bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. And then they said, whoever broadcasts these messages, they are the most generous, bhuridha. So the great sages who broadcast these messages are the most munificent because they are giving the real nectar to this world, which is a place of suffering. And as he said this verse, Mahaprabhu said, Bhuridha, Bhuridha. He continued to repeat this word, Bhuridha, again and again and again. And then he embraced Prataparudra. So you see here that the mood of service actually of Pratap actually made the heart or softened the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees, and they told him, you please go and serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu this way. The access to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happened through the devotees. That is the Dasa Dasa Anudas. The Anudas that we talked about here. It's not just being a servant of the servant of the servant. That greatest benediction can happen when one has this mood. As long as one doesn't have this mood, one cannot progress in spiritual life. One will continue to remain in this material world. So let us continue our spiritual practice, particularly by hearing and chanting the holy name in the mood that some devotee came to me and told me, chant. Let me chant as a service to him. If we try to chant thinking, I am going to chant and go back to Godhead, it may work, it may not work. We will lose our strength after some time. But when we chant, we have to consider, somehow I was going in this world, some devotee caught me and said, this is the teaching of the Gita. This is the teaching of Krishna. Why don't you please accept it? And being grateful to that teaching, being grateful to that person, as a reciprocation for that gratitude, let us chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and at the same time, to the limited capacity or whatever capacity Krishna has given to us, let us give this knowledge to others and help others to progress. Just like Prataparudra was favored, let us be favored and let us favor others too. With that, I'll end here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.